What happens when a couple of friends deep dive into silly Star Wars thoughts and questions you never knew you needed answered?
Do you think that Shmi and Qui-Gon did the Funky Town dance?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Oh, yeah. 100% that was her being like, come on, let's go to bed, you know?
She was coming to invite us.
Yeah.
Join us for some casual conversation on the Cantina Chat podcast featuring Jordan and Sean.
All right, thanks for joining us back on another episode here of our Cantina Chat podcast. Joined as always, we've got the Jedi Jester Jordan over here. How you doing today, Jordan?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good, man. Good. We're joined, of course, with our producer as always, our Force ghost on the coast, Miss Savannah. How you doing?
Hello there.
Oh.
I'm good.
She's learning Star Wars
She
things.
is.
That's kind of cool. We're slowly getting her acquainted with Star Wars.
Yes, we are.
Of course, as always, I'm your friendly neighborhood Sith, known as Sean. We've got a pretty good episode today, too. We've got a review set up for the third episode of Acolyte that we'll be talking about, getting our impressions on that. We've got a new creative game that we're going to be trying out and seeing how that goes. It's kind of brand new, so hopefully that'll go cool. And then we're going to do a draft I've been looking forward to. I think you have too.
Yeah.
Where we have Starfighters that we build up, a team of ships to attack each other.
Yeah.
I know you're super into the ships like me, so I think that'll be a good draft.
I think it'll be good.
But yeah, jumping into Acolyte, we just watched the third episode today. What were your initial impressions of this one?
At first, I was kind of nervous, I guess.
Sure.
About halfway through, that feeling went away. I mean, the ending came out better than what I thought it was going to, just off my first impression of like probably the first half of the episode.
Gotcha.
But I was a little bit nervous when it started. I was like, where are we going to go here? But you know, I mean, that's how it goes in every series that we watch. Stuff like that, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to have those. But it's kind of nerve-wracking. How about yours? What was your...
I liked it quite a bit for what it was, and I guess I would just refer to this one. I mean, we don't know what the other ones are going to be yet, of course, but
Right.
For now, I'm looking at this episode as what I call the flashback episode.
Yeah.
The whole episode was, set 16 years prior, so we got to see the beginning of those events. It seems a little bit weird to me to have like a brand new setup where we've got a timeline that we don't know anything about.
Right.
We don't know anything about any of these people. We barely saw the first two episodes, and we're already getting a flashback.
Right.
And I was kind of thinking at first, like, this feels way too early. This feels kind of weird. I already
Right.
don't know who any of these people are, so to get their origin was like, it felt a little weird at first.
Mhm.
But for me, almost immediately as it started getting into it, I liked it quite a bit. It answered a lot of the questions we had, and it still kept some of the mystery open in my mind by the end of it. So I
Right.
think that's kind of cool. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, which I find really interesting, is the episode titles each time. So
Mhm.
episode 1 was like two names on the episode, which was, what was it, Lost and Found, and yeah. So the first episode was Lost and Found, and then the second episode was called Revenge Justice.
Okay.
This episode 3, is just called Destiny.
Yeah.
So the way I interpreted that was that the episodes all had two titles, one for each sister,
Yeah.
right? Lost and Found,
Revenge and Justice.
and then Revenge and Justice. So
Right.
it applied to each of them. This one is interesting because the flashback, I feel like, is not necessarily giving us the whole story yet, and I'm a little curious where it goes later if we
Right.
get maybe May's perspective on a flashback.
Right.
And that could be one of the reasons why the episode only has one name.
Right.
And that could be a little clue to that, because everything we've seen so far has been about both of them. And this is the first episode we've gotten so far that it's only called the one name. So I was like, that's interesting.
Well,
I
as
don't
we
know.
went through the episode, I mean, having only one name title, one word in the name, I feel like it was obviously from May's standpoint.
Right.
It showed her
Or Osha.
wanting to leave. I'm sorry, Osha's standpoint.
Yeah.
It was showing her wanting to leave this covenant and joining the Jedi Order. She wanted to be a Jedi. She wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And it was only her. Like, I mean, we saw May's viewpoint where she
Yeah.
wanted to be, but it was definitely on more of a storytelling for Osha's side.
Yeah, I think so.
So I mean, it makes sense to only have it one word, have it just be destiny. It was for
Sure.
Osha's destiny.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and to me, it's cool, and that does kind of give you the hint or the idea of that we're going to get another flashback, and it will be from May.
Yeah, maybe it'll
from
be
the point
May's.
when May had started the fire.
Right.
And then she disappeared. She ran off, and then all of a sudden, as Osha runs through that little corridor or whatever, she came out on the bridge, and then May was there.
Right.
Maybe we'll get a flashback of
To see
May,
what
how
happened
she
with
got
her.
around, where she went after the fact, and so
Yeah.
on. So
Agreed. Yeah, that's true. I think it's also kind of cool to see like some of the differences in the Jedi, how they portrayed them to look different. The
Right.
four Jedi, Torben, of course, being just a Padawan now. You called that out immediately as soon as you saw the braid, and,
Yep.
and that he walked onto the screen, and then Indara specifically made sure to mention,
Right,
this is my Padawan here. So Sol and the Wookiee Jedi might not have even been masters at this point. They might have just been knights, but I don't really know. Because there's not like a visual distinction that you would be able to see like you would with the Padawan's braids.
right,
To know if somebody is a knight versus a master. But,
right.
obviously he didn't have a Padawan yet. So.
Well, no, I mean he told Osha, like if you want to,
Right.
you come back and I'll train you as your master or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was kind of hard telling. I mean, he might have been the rank of master at that point.
Right.
Then again, he could be just going up and being like, hey, I found her, I want to train her.
Yeah.
And then that's how he became master.
True.
It's very much up in the air. I mean, there's a lot that we didn't learn from this, but then again, there is a lot that we did learn.
Yeah.
So
I have a feeling that a lot of it is probably being kept from us right now. Like the way my impression of how the coven basically was finished is that it had very little to do with the little fire that May set.
right.
It does feel a little weird to see May go that extreme. Like they had that little almost like clue that she is got that little bit of a serial killer thing going on, where like with the butterfly type alien in the
Right.
beginning, she was like wanting to harm a creature that was doing nothing. Like that's
Right.
always the thing they do in like serial killer
Yeah.
TV shows and stuff. And kind of a clue that person could have like a murderous intent down
Right.
the road, and you're like, okay, that's
She has that thought in the back of her mind.
yeah,
right?
yeah. Like so it was weird that was pretty much all we had, and then we went from that to, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to kill you. I was like, that's pretty extreme.
That was a crazy turn.
Yeah.
I mean, she was super afraid of losing her sister.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But it was like, if I can't have you, nobody can.
nobody can, exactly. And that is a very extreme take.
It is. It is.
Especially for, a child.
An 8-year-old?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
I mean, that's, I wasn't expecting her to say it.
Yeah.
Like, part of me kind of
You're like, all right.
kind of felt it the way she was acting when, Osha was like,
Yeah.
I didn't tell her, I told the truth, blah, blah, blah. And so, May immediately started a little push fight and was like yelling at her and mad.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, okay, well, after we heard her say, well, then I'm just going to kill you, and you, if you're going to leave, I'm going to kill you. It's like, okay, yeah, never mind. That makes
I
sense.
half expected her to like stupidly go fight the Jedi on her own or something like
That's
that.
kind of,
like,
or like she was going to start a fire, but it was going
Yeah.
to be around the Jedi camp.
Yeah, something
like that.
along those
Not
lines.
in the house, the
Yeah.
place that she wanted to stay and grow. She was like, I'm just going to destroy it.
I do think that I don't know if we're going to get more to the story yet on this coven, but like there was a couple things about them that I really liked. I thought it was cool that they were already trying to flee. They were already being persecuted.
Right.
They purposefully picked a planet that was outside the Republic's control so
Yep.
that they could do it. And they're not Night Sisters, but they're kind of close. And it's kind of reminding me a little bit of, in some ways, in the Tales of the Empire, the newest one, we got to see from the New Girl's perspective that on Dathomir there weren't just Night Sisters,
No, you
but
had
there was
the light
like
side
the light side
version of, yeah.
Yeah, and I forget what they were called, but they had their own little tribe and all that, and they were pretty similar. They were just good guys.
Something of the mountains, I think.
Yeah,
is what they were. I
yeah.
can't remember, but that's what I was going to say is that, like, we started off with just the Night Sisters, that were on Dathomir and everything
Right.
they did. They were Force witches. They used the dark Force,
Right,
dark side, basically. And then we saw the light side version of them that was on Dathomir. And so it's like, okay, well, that's cool. And then immediately after Tales of the Empire came out and we saw this version, now Acolyte's out, and we have a whole nother
potentially new one.
witch.
I do think it's purposeful and interesting that they chose to not visualize the way she was using her stuff with like green magical energies coming up.
Well, it's to differentiate
and
right.
separate purposefully. So like they're they're witches. They might even have a Zabrak that's a leader of them with, special markings on her face and stuff. Clearly not a Night Sister, though. Definitely different. But they're using dark side energy, and they're using the dark, side of the Force to do certain things. Weirdly, potentially creating life like Plagueis, but we don't really know the full details on what she was saying with that either. But the girl, created the. I don't understand what that was all about.
That made me super nervous too. I was worried that
we were going to
we were
Anakin
going right
territory.
back to an Anakin thing, and I'm like, I don't like. It's not that it should only happen once, but it should only happen
once. But if he's the chosen
once.
one,
exactly,
then he's the chosen one, not one of two, or one of four, or one of whatever.
It's happened before, and nobody said anything, and all of a sudden Anakin shows up, and nobody knows.
You know
what I mean? That made me very,
You're right.
very weird. When they first said, well, there was no father, I was like, don't tell me that they're doing this. Don't let Anakin be the only one in the Star Wars universe to be born of this way,
right.
And then we find out a little bit later that the
mother, the leader of the thing.
Yeah, the leader of the was the one who carried the children, and then the one that they called mom.
Right.
Apparently manipulated.
Yeah, the Force.
And created those two for her to carry.
Right. So that's pretty crazy, but it does seem to be, at least how it was explained to us in the movies, a good bit different than what happened with Anakin, where the, I guess, idea that they haven't specifically said, in the movies anyway, that it was anything other than the Force choosing a savior, basically, to balance itself.
Right.
Whereas, this is very different. This is a very deliberate, literal situation, somebody creating life. So, who knows? I don't know that we'll get much more on that aspect. I think that part probably won't get explained. But I do think it's interesting that she seemed like she was portrayed, the mother, in kind of a respectful, cool way. Like she had her own belief system. She, would have been looked at wrongly by the Jedi, which is why she was afraid.
Right.
But also, she cared for her kids. She taught them interesting lessons, and she seemed like she was doing a good job in some of that stuff. And it makes you kind of wonder, if she was left alone, they may not have been evil, despite the fact that they used the dark side of the Force. So there's some of that gray area that they're starting to play with, in that I like that idea a lot, that just because you use one side of the Force or not doesn't mean you are good versus evil. It's not that kind of a thing. So I like that idea a lot, and I think that some of the new Star Wars content is kind of pushing that a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that's what's going to happen with Rey and the future stuff, is that all the lines are going to be kind of blurred, and it's not just straight black and white as far as good guy, bad guy.
Right.
When it comes to the Force. I do think it's weird that, do you remember in the animated show Rebels, there was a little arc with Zeb, the cat guy.
Mm-hmm.
His people, they were trying to save his people, and they were taking them from one place to another place.
They had to cross through that dangerous
hyperspace cloud of
the
death.
Hyperspace lane that they only knew, something like that.
Right, but it was some kind of, it was a spiritual journey that they ended up taking, and the mother of that clan or whatever had to use the Force in her own way. She wasn't a Jedi. None of them were trained like Jedi.
Right.
But it was using that little mini arc there to teach us about how there are lots of people in this galaxy that can use the Force.
Right.
But the Force appears different to different people, and how they use it is different.
Right.
And there's not just a light side and a dark side and all that. And it was kind of okay, And then in this, it seems like in this time period now, in the Acolyte, if you use the Force, but you didn't use it the way the Jedi wanted, they're going to come get you.
Yeah.
And you're exiled, you're punished, you're, in a bad shape.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting, that we see a little bit of evolution of just how the Force is viewed by the masses as well.
Another thing that, and obviously just off of this flashback to look at this covenant, we don't know what they did beforehand either.
Right.
It could have been that the Jedi are hey, you guys, no dark side Force at all. But then again, it's kind of I wonder if they've had clashes
I presume
in
so.
the past, like, you know, they've fought or something like that, and so that's why the Jedi or the Republic is very hard set on
Right.
tracking, you know, like kind of kicking these guys out, is because, well,
Yeah.
they were a threat at one point.
I do think their reaction to the Jedi coming, especially their mom, the leader of this group, was very much like defensive though. Like everybody else in the group was like, draw your weapons, like we're gonna fight these guys and whatever, and she was like, no, weapons down, we're gonna talk, it's gonna be whatever. But I don't know. I thought that was like someone who has control, someone who's not just some
the
crazy
Zebrak mother,
Sith.
she was very much more aggressive
I know.
when it came to the daughters and to the Jedi.
Right.
So once again, it kind of shows that odd balance of like you have one who's more lenient and wants to listen, the other one's like, no, you know, we're gonna do it this way, and it kind of portrays May and Osha.
That's a
almost,
good point.
in my mind, you know,
Yeah,
like
May
kind of leans more to the attitude of how the Zebrak mother would have been compared to how Osha and the other mother was.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
You know,
what do you think about like when Sol saves Osha, right?
Yep.
And May presumably, in their minds, falls to her death.
Right.
And they're running through the temple and or this little, not temple, but this coven that they're at, and Sol's trying to save her, and they're running out while everything's on fire. And you see all the dead members, including her mom, laying there on the ground. What do you think happened to them?
First thing in my mind, the way that they were all laid, like, not piled on top of each other or covered in debris. And there wasn't fire.
Even in that room.
Like, there was no burnt. I mean, on the outside wall there was a little bit. But, like, in the middle where they were laying, there was nothing there.
Right.
And so I was like, well, how'd they die? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I don't really know how they would have died. You know, from how we know, there was no fight, there was no battle.
Right.
You know?
None of them even had weapons in their hands.
Exactly.
And I think the way that her mom, Osha's mom, was reacting to saying, like, Osha, you're going to, be able to make your choice.
Yeah.
But, she let her make that choice, and then she was, like, crying about the choice and whatever. I think that they were so scared. Like, my impression of it was that they were so scared about letting the secret out, as far as, like, at that point, the Jedi still didn't even know how they were created. I think it was so important to them that the Jedi don't get Osha and or May that they were willing to basically off their whole clan, like, just so. I think it was a very cult-like atmosphere to me, and I think it was kind of like they all drank the Kool-Aid together, sort of thing,
right.
Where they all just decided, like, let's just end our lives, and then that way the Jedi can't do anything.
Yeah.
And it just so happened to be at the same time period when May set a fire and sort of maybe accidentally saved Osha's life, because I think they probably would have killed both of the girls in this situation as well, because it didn't look like there was any fighting. It didn't look like there was, like, death from the fire. Like,
right.
It's
like
a big stretch
no
to say it was
that
like
was anywhere near the
not
mass
like
group.
a cave-in, not like if you want to say it was smoke inhalation from the. That's a stretch. I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but Sol ran through that whole building.
I know.
To get Osha.
I know.
mean, even though he is a Jedi,
it's not like it
but
was
they
that
have,
hot.
You know,
or...
they can use the Force. You know, these witches can.
Yeah.
So it's like if Sol can run through and he uses the Force somehow to survive.
And they were paranoid.
They the same thing.
They seemed paranoid about the Republic knowing, like, what they did consider the option of fighting the 4 Jedi. Like,
right.
We can kill them. There's only 4 of them. Who's going to miss them? But then they said, like, no, we don't want the Republic coming here.
Right.
So, like, or to even know about this. So this whole origin of them being born the way they were born, potentially created with the dark side of the Force.
Right.
I think that's still a secret that hasn't been fully explained yet.
Right.
And we might get a little bit more to explain that. But when you pair that stuff kind of with the fact that the 4 Jedi that were involved seem way more guilty than they should.
Yeah.
For this just being like, we were here, we tried to save this, these 2 girls that we saw that are potentially Force sensitive, and unfortunately one of them went crazy and they all died. Like, that would suck. But would it bother, like, Torben, for example, so much that he decides to kill himself?
That's what I was gonna say. So, like, we saw Torben in episode 2, who was in the Force trance that we talked about, and he dropped down and said, basically, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he drank the poison and
he was
immediately offed himself. And so it's like,
that's
okay.
weird. That doesn't jive to me.
Right. The only one that I could see who would feel bad from this flashback and who has more of a reason to feel bad would be Soul.
Yeah.
Because he went back and he watched OSHA fall.
He watched them
supposedly
both. He
fall.
saw both of them. Moshe
he grabbed
and May.
I'm sorry. Yeah, he
Yeah.
saw. Yeah, you know what I mean. He saw both of the
They're
girls.
twins. It's hard to tell them apart.
It really is. He watched OSHA and May both fall.
Yeah.
And you heard him scream May, because May, I think, was the first one to fall.
Yeah.
But as he ran up, all he could grab was OSHA.
Right.
But then at the end of the episode, we saw May come back out to the tree that they started at. And she's like, Oshi, and was like looking around or something.
At the end of this episode?
Yeah.
I think I missed that.
We might have.
I don't remember.
But it was right at the end. And so it's like, okay, so she, I mean, obviously she survived anyway.
Right, we know that
saw her
she's
in
alive,
episode,
but yeah.
The first episodes. And so.
So she goes back to the Bunta tree?
Yeah. And so it's like, now I'm curious if like, when she was falling, he knew he couldn't grab her. What if he force pushed her to like the other side of whatever might have been on the other side of the hole? But
in an attempt to save her?
Didn't know if he saved her or not. He tried. Or,
I don't know.
You know
I think
what I mean? Because like, how could a child? And I know if this covenant might be. I mean, obviously the older ones are very strong. I mean, they can channel anything. I don't foresee May coming out like all the other Jedi that we've watched fall or get stricken down.
Right.
Because you had Luke fall down the massive chute that was in Bespin.
Right,
in Cloud City. Anakin got burned alive after being cut apart. And it's like them. I understand them surviving.
Yeah.
But then you had May, who would have been 8 years old, as she fell down this pit that led to who knows where.
Right.
And then she all of a sudden just comes back out and she's alive. So that makes me wonder if Soul, as he ran up, didn't do something that we didn't see.
Maybe. I don't know. It's tough.
I mean, then again, she could have been like,
I think he genuinely wanted to save the two kids.
I agree.
And if he felt like she might still be alive, he probably would have been willing to turn the ship around or not leave in the first place and like try to get her. I think he, at that moment, definitely thinks she's gone.
She was gone.
And his way of protecting Osha is, Osha. Her sister calls her Oshi, so to shelter her, the best way is to just get her out of that situation. Let's just get out of here. But I don't know. The way they were leaving was awful fast. Like, there's a lot about that that's a little weird. But I think, I think that's just a little strange the way all that worked out. I guess the next episode seems like we're done with the flashback probably, and it's going to now put us into
go back to where we were
where we were. But I have a feeling down the road we may get a second half of a flashback, at least a partial one.
I agree.
And maybe instead of revenge, it's called, or instead of destiny, it's called, like fate or change or
whatever.
Choice, because one had a choice and one it was their destiny or something along those lines. But very curious where that goes. But
I'm wondering if Soul and Dara and Torben, if they held part of the story back from Osha.
Maybe.
Because when she woke up on the ship, she's like, what happened? Where are we? She didn't remember anything until Soul was like, your people are gone.
Right.
There was that big fire. I mean, granted, he had a lot of compassion for her right off the start. I mean, when he hugged her while everything was happening, you watched a tear drop from his eye, and it was like, we've never seen a Jedi have that much compassion for somebody before. And he's right up front. Giving his compassion for, I say we never have Obi-Wan showing the compassion he truly had for Anakin at the end of episode 3. And then in the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan had very strong compassion for Satine. And then Anakin obviously had very strong passion for Obi-Wan and Padme. So I say never, but never off the bat as fast. You know, I mean, Soul had just met these girls,
and he already felt really attached.
Correct.
Immediately. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think there's some weird, questionable stuff. They had like a room that had, I guess, like the power generators and stuff for the thing. It looked like it was all one room.
Yeah.
That's where that little catwalk was, where they met each other right before they both plummeted.
Yeah.
And that whole like back wall just exploded.
It was blowing up panel for panel.
did a little fire from upstairs in a stone room cause all this? Is there more going on?
That's
like,
it is very hard to believe.
There's so much weirdness about this. That
granted,
you
did have the electrics that were
It was like
the electricals
it was,
in the wall, in the door for that main door that was sitting there shorting out and
oh,
everything.
Yeah.
Maybe. It could have
done
a lot.
Right.
You know, it's kind of hard to tell. But for that entire massive building.
Right.
To just all of a sudden, just off of a small fire in one of the top floors, and then the electrical panel started, short circuiting, and it is hard for me to wrap my head around the concept of it was just a fire. It makes me wonder if the Jedi had come back to the Covenant and was like, hey, we want to see the girls, or we're taking Osha or something, and then the Covenant was like, no, I don't think so. And then that's when everything started happening. Now, whether they still drank the Kool-Aid, that's a possibility, because 4 Jedi can still do a lot.
Yeah.
We've watched one Jedi take on numerous amounts of droids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so you have 4 Jedi who are well-trained that walk into a Covenant. It could have been like, hey, we're here to take them. The Covenant was, their guards and stuff were like, no, this is where we're going to stand. And they all start fighting each other. And then they realize, hey, we can't take these Jedi, so let's just Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And then they can't interrogate us. They can't do nothing.
Exactly.
It very well could be. Yeah. It's hard until we get more of that, if we get more of that, to know exactly what's
I'm hoping we do. I hope we get some sort of other backstory, whether it's Maze or Soul's. I could see Soul, if there is something he's hiding, actually being like, listen, I left this from you. This is what actually happened that night. Because of his compassion for Osha.
Right.
And May. Obviously he still holds compassion for May.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's because he truly had compassion for her, or it's because he feels bad about what had happened to her.
Sure.
Probably
both. Probably both. He feels worse now that he's guilty, but...
Yeah.
Did you happen to see in any of the bodies on the ground? I know it was pretty quick, but the Zabrak mother.
No,
I didn't either.
The shot of all of not all of them, but the vast majority, the big group that were in the room, it was hard to tell who was who.
Right.
I didn't see the old lady neither.
The
old alien that had come up and was like a little bit more wiser, I guess, with the decision.
Right.
I didn't really see her, and I didn't see the Zabrak.
Right.
And then obviously the other mother was laying in
right
that last
in the front.
room.
Yeah.
Right. So
the reason I'm asking is because I was wondering if they were trying to do the old switcheroo on us with the Sith in the background, who is angry, who does want revenge on these Jedi.
You think it could be her?
There's a possibility. They're hiding the face. They're hiding everything. And a lot of times in shows like this, they will overemphasize the he and the him on somebody whose face is hidden.
Yeah. So
that the reveal later that it's a female is like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't realize that, because you've subconsciously been saying he when we had no idea which one it was, because it's just a masked individual.
Well, it was like in episode 2 when they were hunting down the Changeler.
They did that then too.
They were like,
they did that then
yeah,
too.
right.
And they overemphasize it usually in these shows, like a couple times, to get you to think that's
right.
And they haven't done it like egregiously, but they did say he or him like 4 times already, in referring to who is he, the master, and all that.
Right.
Although no, now that I think about it, he said that the little guy that was at the apothecary store or whatever, he said that to Osha when he thought that.
When Osha was May.
Yeah, when he thought that Osha was May, he said something along the lines of like, he will be happy or something like that.
Well, yeah, and May
so
said to
he
him,
wouldn't have
don't
said
tell
that.
him about this.
He would have been
whatever.
in
don't tell him you helped me or something like that. We both know what he'll do to us.
So it would have made sense for that to have been revealed as a girl then. So
one last thing before we move on.
Right.
When Indara, Torben, and Soul and the Wookiee had walked into the Covenant very first, and the mother had done some sort of like
what she did to Torben?
Dark,
like a possession,
witchcraft, possession type over him. Turned his eyes black,
and seemed like she did it with ease.
Just looked at him.
She was just like, eh.
Yeah.
And then was like brazenly like, if you ever want him back, you leave us alone.
Yeah.
Like, she had the power to turn on these Jedi easily.
Yeah.
But instead, she chose the more.
Hey, let's calm down.
Which is another reason why I was thinking, well, the Zabrak, the other side of that, the other side of the coin,
Right.
just like you said with Osha and May.
Right.
Like if they're also reflective of the two sides of the same thing, then it makes sense that the Zabrak would just be like, well, that the compassion side didn't work, did it? Let me
Right.
go full angry, full Sith mode. But she's got some strength if she could just do that to a Jedi. Although she chose the Padawan.
That was how, I don't know if you noticed, but in the first episode when May and Osha saw each other in that vision,
Yeah, that's how.
May's eyes did the same thing.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, I do.
So that's another kind of a.
And that
kind of a
wasn't
strange
something
thing.
that May was doing purposefully either, making herself appear in a vision to Osha, because May still at that point didn't know that Osha was alive.
Right.
And when she sees her later, she's surprised.
Right.
But that vision has helped Osha multiple times. She saw her again in the same local temple. The little vision led her down the other path to
Right.
go find where Torben, his dead body at that point, was.
Right.
But that's crazy that we don't know exactly what's going on there. I'm curious about that original theory of mine that
Right.
there's something like a forced dyad type
Right.
situation going on, because they keep referring to this, born we are one but born as two sort of
Right.
thing, and then, it has enough mystery that the show's still got me hooked.
Yeah.
In my opinion, so far, I think the show's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm just more curious, more than anything else, where it's going to go. The quality of the show is really good. The acting, I feel like, is pretty good. I think overall, I'm fine with the show. I don't really have too many problems with it.
Right.
I just think, the payoff might not be that great when everything's said and done. But if the payoff is great, I think that this might be a pretty good show.
Right.
I feel so far like I'm pretty invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think so far? 3 episodes is pretty early, but
3 episodes is early, and we said that the last time too. The last episode, that it's hard to make a true final judgment until the very end. I do think it's good.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I'm engaged when I'm watching it. Like
Yeah.
I said, the first half of this episode, I was kind of weary, and then at the end, I was like, okay, which happens.
Yeah.
So many shows that were Star Wars and so on. We had episodes where we were like, this, and that's going to happen.
Yeah.
My biggest worry from the beginning, and I talked to you about this anyway, was that we had learned of the twins and the mystery of the twins so early that I am worried as we get deeper and deeper, it's not going to be that big of a mystery of what happens.
Like the story has no substance because there's already that's
right.
gone.
Now, the mystery of what happened at the Covenant, could change. It could be something completely different.
Sure.
We'll learn that, and so that'll be something where we're like, oh crap,
Right.
And then whoever this hidden Sith is,
Right.
whether it's a Zabrak mother or
Somebody
else,
More likely that it's someone else, but
you never know.
You don't
we
know.
didn't see her anywhere, and as Osha was running out, she didn't stop to say, "Oh no," She only saw her other mother.
Coral, was that her name?
I can't remember.
Corin or Coral?
Something, yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but so that's very strange.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll probably be a good stopping spot for this week on the review of episode 3, and then we can take a short break, and then we can jump back into playing and trying our new game.
Okay.
See how that goes. So.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to the next section here of our podcast. Today we're going to be doing a new game that we've just created. We are calling it The Bad Bachelor. Ooh, you get it?
Yeah.
You get it?
Uh-uh.
It's because of the Bad Batch.
Oh.
It's like Bachelor, but it's spelled different.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea is that Jordan and I are going to be playing as contestants in like a blind dating game. So our Force Ghost on the coast is going to be playing the role of the person who is also it's also going to be blind to us who that is as well. But basically, they are trying to pick one of the two of us to go on this blind date. So if you can imagine like one of those game shows where we're behind the curtains sort of thing, and she's going to ask us a bunch of questions to try to figure out who she wants to go with. So we want to get picked by her. That's how one of us will be the winner.
Okay.
However, we can only say things based on the secret character that we're going to be portraying from like their point of view.
Yep.
The only rule that we set in place for this is that we're not going to talk like the character, because in Star Wars there'd be too many. Like if you picked Yoda, you start talking backwards, she already knows that's Yoda, so it kind of ruins the game. So we're gonna use our normal voices. We're not gonna like pretend to be the character, but the things we have to say is from their point of view, basically.
Yep.
So we're gonna go ahead and turn the game over to Miss Savvy here for the questions to get started.
Welcome, gentlemen. Because we write from right to left, I'm going to say Sean is Bachelor number 1, Jordan's Bachelor number 2, behind our virtual curtains here. So my first question is, Bachelor number 1, if you could work in any profession other than your current one, what would it be?
Oh, okay. Well, my current profession, I just pretty much only work. All I ever do is work. So I'm trying to think if I did something else, it'd probably be sneaky. It'd probably be like stealing things because it'd be funny. I'd probably like stealing stuff from people off the street.
Stealing things. Okay, that is definitely setting up some red flags, but
Darn it.
I thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
Bachelor number 2, what about you? If you could work in any other profession, what would it be?
I definitely would work in sales,
Huh.
but I would manage my own company. I definitely don't want anybody above me who might take a little bit of a cut.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. Makes sense. Like to be your own boss. All the profits for you. Okay.
I've never dreamt of something like that. That sounds amazing to me.
Okay.
We'll talk after this.
Give him a business card. Okay. Well, thank you both. My next question, Bachelor number 1. What's your idea of a good time?
Oh, man. Probably just pulling pranks on my friends, making people laugh. I love making people laugh. And pulling pranks on people, that's a good way to do it. I think that's a great way to do it. Sometimes when people come in and you see them and they get hurt, it's so funny. Yeah.
Okay, another red flag. Bachelor number 2, what is your idea of a good time?
Oh, I really, really like to gamble.
Huh.
Oh, God.
Huh.
Nothing but red flags, folks. Nothing but red flags. Okay, I'm taking notes. Thank you again, both, for your honesty. Bachelor number 1, what are some of your best and worst qualities? Just name a couple.
Oh man, I have hardly any bad qualities. They're all great.
Okay.
I make everyone that meets me laugh. I'm a hard worker. Almost all I ever do is work. My boss is very grateful that I'm around. Sometimes I'm really afraid of his wrath, but good thing I make him laugh all the time, and so therefore it doesn't matter. So I would say my key quality is probably making other people, including my boss, laugh at my antics all the time.
Okay. That sounds a little more promising. Okay, thank you. Bachelor number 2, what are some of your best and worst qualities?
I don't really think I have any bad qualities either. Good qualities, I'm always there watching over, keeping an eye on whether it's, my store, as well as I'm pretty good with money. So.
Successful businessman.
Okay. All right. I mean, anybody could be going on this date at this point. It's hard to narrow it down, but I think we've got a good foundation. So I'm going to move into some relationship type questions.
Ooh.
I'll start with Bachelor number 2. What would our first date be like?
Honestly, I'd probably take you out to a race. Real good race.
Okay.
Huh.
But hey, don't be surprised when I throw out some money on that race.
Okay. All right. How would I be involved in this? Like, what's your plan to make sure I have a good time?
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot you were coming. I was thinking about that race and all the money I'd probably win. You'd probably I'd let you, I wouldn't let you hold the money.
No, okay.
You would just be there with me.
Just be
I
there.
would show you the ropes.
Okay. The ropes of gambling or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that could be helpful. Get some life skills for later. All right. Bachelor number 1, what do you imagine our first date would be like?
Well, I gotta admit, I'm feeling a little inferior because Bachelor number 2 sounds kind of rich, but
Look, the date is with me, not the two bachelors. That's not how this works.
I can't. Oh, I don't get to pick him.
No.
Oh, okay.
Call me after.
If we were going on a date, you'd have such a great time. You'd laugh the whole time. Maybe at me, maybe at my antics, maybe at things we do together. If we were going on a date together, you would need to be really funny, and you would need to be helping me prank people. Maybe we could go through like one of my favorite things, like going to the back alleys out in like the desert, and we could like rummage through some things, and we could find like maybe like fruits that we could throw at people, or sometimes there's a fruit stand that the guy that owns it, like he doesn't pay attention all the time, and you can go by and you can take some of his fruit. You can take it. You can just take it, and then later on he's like, "Where's all my fruit?"
Wait, you don't pay for the fruit?
No, I just take the fruit. It's so cool. We could do that. We could do that. You want to do that? That'd be a fun date.
Someone save me. Send help.
Huh.
Okay.
Oh, I thought.
Okay. Good. Great options here. I don't know how I'm gonna pick. Bachelor number 2. How would you impress my parents?
Oh, well, I'd probably just show them my money. Talk about all the money.
Okay.
I could take one of my free help and have them clean up the house for them.
Okay. I mean, that's a good option.
Yeah.
Everyone loves free
Yeah.
house cleaning. Okay. All right. I like it. How about you, Bachelor number 1? How would you impress my parents?
I might, if I think about it really hard, I think what I would do, is something funny.
You
I'd
prank my
probably,
parents?
I might prank them. It depends if that's what they like. Sometimes,
They don't.
if they're authority figures, they might not like being pranked. So then you just do
Correct.
funny antics.
Okay.
One of my go-tos is juggling. Usually fruit that I've stolen from a street vendor. I like doing that. Sometimes you can get away with just like a good face, a funny face, a scream, and then you could like leap really high. That scares people. And then sometimes like, oh, yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, sometimes I do that. That's fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, Bachelor number 2, what do you value in a relationship?
Oh, that's real tough. So many things.
Is it money?
Honestly, I would probably say making sure that none of my money gets spent on the wrong things. And well, if you try to get rid of some of my money, you better haggle that. Never
Okay.
pay full price
Okay.
for stuff that you buy.
Okay. So you'd be okay spending money on me, but only if I bargain first.
You would have to bargain, and you take the lowest dollar you can get for
Okay.
it. You know what I
Makes
mean?
sense. Okay. All right. Cool. Bachelor number 1, what about you? What do you value in a relationship?
Usually I'm always the one trying to make other people laugh. And I think maybe for once in my life, if somebody made me laugh, and they didn't threaten to beat me, punish me, eat me, anything of that sort, those are qualities I enjoy. I like those things.
Okay.
I like those things a lot.
I mean, that sounds really reasonable. Those are some reasonable asks for a relationship. Would you say that you laugh easily? Would it be easy for me to make you laugh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Well, that's good to know. All right. Thank you both. So now we're going to dig a little bit deeper.
Oh,
I'm going to go back to asking Bachelor 1 first. What is your greatest achievement?
a lot of people would probably say their greatest achievement is ahead of them. They haven't done it yet. But I know I have. And it's that I'm still here. I constantly, every day, I work really hard. And my boss is very unforgiving. And I have to work for him. And at any moment, I've seen him punish other people. I've seen him do all these horrible things. But I just keep juggling. I keep keeping it light, keeping it funny, making laughs. And I'm still here day after day. And I
Okay.
think I'll continue to do so.
Okay. Good. All right. That's a good achievement. Bachelor number 2, what is your greatest achievement?
I would say probably my shop.
Your shop. Okay.
I'm the only one around that has a hyperdrive for a special ship.
Ah. Okay, that's a great clue. Even though you're behind a virtual curtain, I'm starting to see clearly who you might be, so to speak. All right, let me see. We're going to keep asking questions, though. It's Bachelor number 1. Your home, if you have one, is on fire. You can only grab. What do you grab on your way out? You're running out the door.
Probably that fruit I stole earlier. It's really it's important. It's nearby. Believe it or not, the house that I normally stay in has broken apart before. There's usually something crazy going on in that house. I've seen a lot of ruckus and things happen, and usually just getting out with your own skin or fur is really all you need to do. So that's usually what I do. But if something's close by that I care a lot about, like that fruit, I'll take that.
Okay. So you don't live with any other beings, any
Oh yeah, there's a
pets,
lot of them.
or
There's so many people.
oh, but you'd grab the fruit and not anyone else.
Yeah, they're not mine. They also work for my boss. He. There's a lot of people there.
Well, I mean, it sounds like the fruit's not yours either, really.
No, it wasn't, but I got it, and I
Okay.
juggle with it. You want
Okay.
me to juggle?
Maybe later. We'll save
Okay.
that for our date if we go on one.
Yeah.
We'll save the
I'm
the
in
chuckles and the
lead.
juggles for the date. Okay. And Bachelor number 2, what would you grab on your way out if your home was on fire?
Money.
Money. Okay. I could see that coming. Makes sense. All right. Bachelor number 1, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Free.
Free. Okay. So
I
you're a
think
slave now?
if I was
Enslaved?
anywhere in 10 years, it'd probably be roaming the streets, not employed by my evil boss, uh, who I'm stuck working for, but probably making people laugh, maybe doing some rambunctious pranks on people. I think I'd be in the streets juggling for kids.
Okay. I like that. That sounds, a little mischievous, but you're juggling for the kids. I like it. How about you, Bachelor number 2? Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Probably in my shop.
In your shop, okay. Good, okay. I'm glad you're very satisfied in your career. So that's good to know, in your shop. All right. So we're moving on to our final round of what ifs. So I'll start with Bachelor number 2 on this round. If you could change a mistake from your past, what would it be?
I never would have made that bet.
Not the bet. Okay. I'm not going to ask you any more about the bet because I feel like I've heard about it. Okay, not making the bet. That's a good one. Bachelor number 1, what mistake would you change if you could?
Sorry, what? Was there a question?
What mistake would you change if you could?
Oh, none. I have no mistakes that have ever
None.
been made.
Okay.
There was one time when I was stealing some fruit from a fruit vendor on the street, and I tried to carry 3.
That was too many.
I only have like 2 hands that I could carry stuff with when I'm running away, and the third one, it fell on the ground, got dirty. Nobody used it. The fruit vendor, he didn't get it, but he did get to hear me laughing as I ran away with the 2 so it was still okay. But it was still a mistake. I wanted all 3.
Okay. So can I ask, is stealing fruit how you became enslaved?
No.
So how did you become enslaved? It wasn't like a punishment?
It's my job. It's my job.
It's
my
your
job.
job. Okay.
job.
But you
My job.
can't leave your job?
Well, I'll probably die if I tried,
Okay.
so I don't want to.
So you don't...
My boss is really mean. He has a lot of
Okay.
people that I've seen come in and work for him, and anybody that displeases him, down they go.
Okay. So there's no mistake that you would change, like about how you got into your current position or anything?
No, because I get to have a lot of fun. I laugh every day.
Okay.
It's so much fun.
Okay. I feel I've suspected for a while who you might be, but that was pretty good confirmation. Okay, well, thank you guys. Another what if here for Bachelor number 2. If you could have 3 wishes, what would they be?
I wish I could go back in time and change that bet.
Change the bet. Okay.
Make more money.
More money. Okay. What would be your third wish? You wishing for love? Wishing for
More
to be
free help.
taller?
More
Oh,
free
free help. Okay, good. All right, sounds good. What about you, Bachelor number one? What three wishes would you wish for?
My first wish would be, I wish I could jump higher.
Jump higher.
Yeah,
okay.
like I jump pretty high, but it'd be funnier if I could jump even higher. I wish number two would be that I could let more people hear my laugh. I'd like to bring
Okay.
joy into the world with my laugh. And my third wish would be that I could keep stealing fruit from the vendors on the street that sell fruit. I just wish I could keep doing that.
They're kind of wary of you now. They see you coming and they.
There's only so many of them,
Okay.
and I'm really fast and I jump high, so like I
Jump
get away
high,
with it
but
every
not
time.
high enough, right?
No, it's high enough. I just wish it was higher.
Okay. Okay, well, good to know. All right, last question here. Bachelor number two, if a kid came up to you and kicked you in the shin, what would you do?
I'd make him my free help.
Free help, okay. Good. Indentured servitude for knee kicking. Good to know. How about you, Bachelor number one?
Yes.
If a kid kicked you in the shin, what would you do?
Oh, be impressed that he could reach there.
Okay.
And I don't see many kids, other than, now that you mention it, other free help around the town. But there's not many kids in the area where I'm at.
Okay.
If one of them came in and they somehow managed to kick me, I'd probably scream and I'd jump really far away.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's a natural reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel good about all the questions that I was able to ask. I feel like I've learned a lot about your personalities and your goals and your dreams.
Okay.
So it was a narrow margin, but I think I'm gonna go with Bachelor number two because I think by the end of the date I could get some helpful life advice, which I would not get from Bachelor number one, who I believe to be Salacious Crumb. And Bachelor number two, I believe, is Watto. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you were right on both accounts.
Woo!
job.
I didn't
Congrats.
expect to be able to guess, but then it was fairly obvious, and I was like, "What? Is no one taking this assignment seriously? I do not want to date a small monkey or a weird little flying, dirty."
Well, we don't know what you
shop
are.
owner.
You know, that's racist.
That's true.
She
That's
can't say
true.
that.
I'm
Oh
just
my
saying,
God.
I don't think anybody has ever thought that these two were good dating material.
I mean, what if you really love those little fruits and you wanted to steal
Or what
some?
if you really love money?
Well, I mean,
He's rich. How could you not pick him?
does he see? I don't know that he's rich. He's
He
frugal.
He owns stores.
He's probably not rich.
Store.
Well, he owns a whole conglomeration.
That's true. And he has a hyperdrive for
The
a
French guy.
Nubian!
A chance cube inspiration.
That's correct, buddy.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody,
Thank you.
for tuning in to our new game, The Bad Bachelor. We'll take a short break, and we'll come back with the last part of our episode. All right, welcome back. We are now going to be in the last part of our podcast today. The Geonosian Arena Draft is going to be a little bit different today. Normally we do the draft as if we're in the Geonosis Arena, but today we're going to be taking a small fleet, if you will, a bunch of Starfighters. So we're going to be each drafting a team of basically like single-piloted ships, small ships.
Anything that would be used in like an attack run. Not anything to do with a blockade, nothing like that.
Right, exactly. No frigates, no capital ships, just smaller, maybe intended mostly for ship-to-ship combat.
Right.
But you could pick a bomber or something if you wanted.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, essentially just something along those
Really
lines.
between one to a 3-man operated ship.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, as is tradition, Jordan, why don't you take a chance cube, call your color, and we'll see who's going to go first.
I mean, either color I go with.
You've won
I've
every
won.
single time. It's my time to shine.
I
It's
wanna go with
gotta
red.
be. You want red.
I want
Red,
red.
you go first.
Yep. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's see.
Do you want me to re-roll?
It was red again. It was red again. This is probably the one too where I like really wanted the first pick
Yeah.
because we both have a strong love for the Starfighters
I
and
agree.
ships and stuff. I think we're gonna have a lot
Why
more
don't I tell you
crossover
what?
here.
You roll this time. You roll, and we'll see what it lands on.
I don't know. It's
I just did it again, and it's still red. But
yeah, you rolled red twice in a row. It doesn't matter.
sorry, everybody. Anakin is trying to get up on a shelf.
Yeah, you've gotten it fair and square.
Okay.
So yeah, what would you go for the first overall pick here?
Well, I feel like you know.
Yeah, how could you not?
It's going to be the ARC 170,
Okay.
which was used by the Republic. Everybody knows it. It was in Episode 3. It's what the clone pilots were running. I mean, every single ship you saw was the ARC 170.
Yeah.
3-man operated, has a rear turret, pilot, co-pilot. It's got the weapons on the wings, as well as it does have the like the torpedo
Yeah.
hidden in the bottom. So it's always been a #1 favorite for me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I have one of the ships, like the toys that I had when I was, I don't know how old I was. I've had it for forever.
Sure.
But it's definitely holds a good place in my heart. So
Yeah. It's your favorite ship across all the eras, all the everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. It's a good choice. They're like the precursors, I guess, like the really early ideas on an X-wing. Eventually, right? I mean, they kind of look like it.
That's what I've always assumed. Is that's where the idea came from for the X-wing.
Yeah.
For
You can kind of see a little bit of the design pieces that are really early there.
right.
But yeah, that's really cool. I think that'd be a fine addition to any fight. Which then opens the door for me to pick what I consider to be probably the most iconic ship in Star Wars, the Millennium Falcon.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that the Falcon is obviously like incredible in the movies and the shows and everything that it's ever been in. Is any game that it's ever in, it's always incredible. But we know it's got those crazy weapons. It's got multiple gunner spots. You now know from the inclusion of Lando that that's L3 that's in the hyperdrive and
Yep.
navigational data. So she's permanently in there, which is funny because then it adds like a new little bit of flavor to in the old original trilogy. You have the fact that the ship he refers to is like, you know, she's really like finicky and
Yeah.
whatever, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's L3.
It was a
So-
cool little tie-in.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's one of the fastest, you know, ships in the galaxy, and it's good at fighting, all that. I think it looks interesting. It's useful.
Right.
So I think that'll be my first choice.
Okay. That's a good choice. Okay, so for my second, it'll be from the Rebellion. I think you know which one as well. Excuse me, sir. What do you think you're doing?
Is that a hint?
No. It is a B-wing.
The B-wing.
Yep.
Another of your personal favorites, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah. I think you only saw a couple in the original trilogy. That was flying more towards the backside.
Right.
I mean, they were released in a lot of the early on games, as well as we saw it in Rebels. So I like them. I like them a lot. They're long, skinny. I mean, it has a rotating cockpit for how the body will turn out for attack or
I love
anything
that.
like that.
Yeah.
It's got 3 cannons on it.
Right.
One on the bottom, 2 on each wing.
It's more of like a full-on assault craft too, isn't it?
It
It's like
is.
designed for full-on
Yes.
stinking assault, which is really cool. I liked that arc too in Rebels where they showed like the creation of it and it coming on board, getting tested, and all that stuff. That
Right.
was a great bit of Star Wars in that show.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree.
They also have like ion cannons too to disable ships and stuff like that, don't they?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Pretty
pretty
sure.
sure I remember at least in some of the games with a B-wing you could disable other ships.
Yes.
Cool. I am gonna go then with my second choice, and I'm gonna pick the Slave One. Boba Fett's ship or Jango's ship, either way. They're both fantastic. I really like that cockpit that stays in place when the ship itself moves. The B-wing is particularly amazing for that, but you've got a little bit of that going on with the Slave One. It's like strange where it lands like, you know, on its backside, and so the episode 2 when he meets Jango or whatever,
Yeah.
and then the kids like looking out the window, you know, down on the ground. Like I like that a lot.
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite, like weird thing to say, but one of my favorite noises
Oh,
in anything
oh,
has to be that seismic charge. When
I
that
love
thing
it.
blasts and you got the surround sound on and you just hear that complete mute
yes.
just to emphasize when it does go, that oh man.
Yeah, that was awesome. I do remember when I was a kid, and I went to go watch that in theaters. I was young, but I remember the seismic charge like it was yesterday, and it was the coolest noise I've ever heard in a movie theater. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been one of my like favorite ships for a really long time. Helps that one of my favorite bounty hunters of all time was the one that was driving it when it was green.
Right.
But one thing that I think is overlooked a lot of times is that it supposedly had like really good stealth capabilities
Yes.
that nobody really talks too much about. But like it hides itself on radar, so like you normally wouldn't see it. But that's cool because in the movie, Obi-Wan had to put a physical tracker on it to follow it to Geonosis that one time.
Yeah.
Which is a nice touch to add in that like he wouldn't have been able to see it if he didn't do that. Like
Right.
throw literal tracker on
Yep.
it. So I always thought that was cool. But,
Okay.
how about you for your third pick?
Number 3, probably the N1,
Okay,
the Naboo Starfighter.
that's great.
It's just a cool design.
It's
it
so
looks so
neat.
good. It's fast. It's
Yeah.
slim.
It's really fast. Yeah.
The weapon capabilities are crazy. It has 2 laser cannons on the snout of the ship,
Right.
as well as the
Proton torpedoes.
torpedo.
It's got in it too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, just slick. Even the inside is slick. I mean, it's like chrome on the inside. Like all the
Yeah.
the dash basically is cluster is all chrome.
Leave it up to the
So
people
cool.
who designed and made R2-D2 to make one of the coolest looking ships
Yeah.
in the universe.
Yep.
Yeah, Naboo seemed to have some great capability at manufacturing stuff.
I agree.
It's really awesome. Yeah, you get those chrome looks to them. I like how fast it is, and I think it's really neat when you see even way later, by the time in Mandalorian, in the more recent season, instead of the Razor Crest, now he has a modified
an
version
upgraded-
of an
yeah.
N1, and that thing leaves the new Resistance X-wings in the dust. Like they can't even come close. Like I know he's done some upgrades, but that's a fast ship.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That it, even way later, it just smokes other things. It's
I
so
agree.
Cool. Yeah, that's a really good choice though. I like it a lot. I think for me, my next pick is. I'm gonna have to go with another one from a TV show. I think.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna pick the Ghosts. It is the ship that
That's a good
the
one.
Phoenix Squadron uses. The Phoenix crew.
Yeah.
The guys from Rebels. It's another like weird looking ship, like a freighter that a lot more about the ship seems like it's because of Hera and how good she is. But that is a very fast ship as well. And now with some of the later things being introduced, we're starting to see like it's hiding in the background of like episode 9 and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I like that a lot. And then in like Rogue One, you know that they're there or whatever,
Yeah.
stuff like that. You hear on the intercom they're calling General Syndulla
Yeah.
or whatever. So that's cool that like it's around, it's there, but in the animated shows where it's the most prominent,
Well, the firepower it had.
It was-
It was
yeah.
fast for its size.
right?
I mean, it's kind of like the Millennium Falcon.
It's pretty similar, yeah.
It's a good ship. That is very good.
I think one of my favorite things was the idea that the turret part on the top of it is kind of its own little ship that can come off.
Yeah.
And they can use that as like a little mini attack craft
Mhm.
or just as a shuttle to take somebody down to a planet or
Right.
something like that, so that they could separate. And I always thought that was like really cool.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but almost like in Star Trek, they've got the Galaxy class ship
Yeah.
that they separate the saucer.
Mhm.
Kind of gave me those sort of vibes, just not that big, of course.
Right.
but
Right. That's cool.
I always thought that was cool.
Okay. So another good one. Good pick by you. I think my next one would have to be a Separatist, so it's a droid ship, Tri-Fighter.
Yeah.
Those are cool. It has the 3 laser cannons on the front, one on each point basically, and as that ship will fly and it can rotate and kind of go around,
Right.
and the center, the cockpit, I guess
Right.
you would, it does the same thing. It'll turn, so it doesn't matter which direction it goes, it's still flying right.
Right. Those are cool. You have a thing for those too, don't you?
I do,
Those,
yeah. They're cool. But the Tri-Fighter is definitely another one that I've always liked since I was a kid. So it's definitely on my list.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool one. It sounds cool too, like the sound of its engines and stuff as it's flying around. That one's got the. Is that called a gimbal? Is that what that's called?
What's
Like a gimbal cockpit when the person sits still and the rest of the ship moves. I think that's what that's called.
I think so. Correct. And another thing is, all the Separatist ships, they're all droid powered,
Right.
droid man.
Right.
They're their own droid.
Right.
And its voice, I guess, sounds completely different from like
The B1s and stuff. Yeah. It's
so
unique.
I think they're cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. The little ship that we saw Asajj Ventress in like a couple times, it is similar to a Tri-Fighter, but it's different. I can't remember what that one was called, but it's got similar kind of like the 3-pointed wings and the big ball in the middle that she sits in.
Yeah.
And I always kind of thought, like, did they get that idea from the Tri-Fighter and make something custom for her?
Right.
Because like it kind of reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
But nice, great choice.
Thank you.
I think so. I'm up to my 4th pick.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna pick the Scimitar. The Scimitar was the name of Darth Maul's ship.
Yep.
It's got like the Sith Inquisitor ship or something like that. Might be its name as well. Or no, that's a different ship.
That's a different ship.
Yeah, I think it's just called the Scimitar.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool, and it, for being Star Wars, is one of the few things that canonically has a cloaking device.
Yes.
So it can actually go invisible and help him be sneaky and all that. I always thought that was kind of cool. But more than anything, I just thought it looked cool.
The cockpit, though, the light inside is red.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, how much more Sith can you be to be, like...
Someone walks in there to, like, a mechanic, he's like, whoa.
Yeah, right.
I shouldn't be in here. Tell you what.
Yeah, that's a good choice, dude. That ship is cool. That is
It's a good one. It sounds neat. You barely hear it when it's, like, landing or whatever, and I think it's a pretty good one. I like the way it looks. I'm imagining that it's probably one of one. They made it specifically for Maul, but I do like that. That's where those weird probe droids that he has on the planet.
Yeah.
That are like
Yeah.
coming out. I like those a lot. So I'm imagining those have to come from that ship too.
Yeah.
So he must be able to send those out. But,
yeah, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah. That'll be my 4th pick.
Okay, so my next one is going to be actually a fighter from Mandalore. So this one is called a Fang class.
Okay.
It was used by Mandalorian protectors.
Okay.
It's a little bit wider of a ship, but it's cool. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not.
The one I'm remembering in my head is the gauntlet, the one that Sabine uses in the not Sabine, Bo-Katan uses in the new series.
Right.
I can't remember what the Fang one is.
So the Fang, I don't think we've ever seen in live action. I could be wrong, but it's kind of a shorter version of that, and it's wider.
It's from further back in their history.
Yeah, a little bit further back. Yeah.
Okay.
So that one, it had two front-facing wing mount cannons.
Okay. Cool.
And one hidden torpedo, like proton torpedo port.
Okay.
And it was strictly combat.
Yeah.
It's cool looking.
Mandalorians knew how to do stuff.
They really did.
Oh,
they were nasty.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Do you know if it had its own hyperdrive? Like
that I don't know.
I was just curious because I don't think the Mandalorians had big frigates that they would take and then deploy ships.
No, the Gauntlet
so
had
probably,
hyperdrive.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the Fang probably.
I'm going to assume it did.
Yeah.
But then again, it might not have.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a.
But I don't think that they had any carrier ships that I can think of. So they probably made all of their fighters have hyperdrives.
Well, a lot of their wars they were waging on Mandalore for the longest time.
Yeah.
They had turf
before
wars
they
the
decided to go conquering.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cool choice to close out the draft. I like it a lot. And I think for my last one, I'm stuck between two that I like a lot. And I think I'm going to go with Poe Dameron's X-Wing.
Okay.
A Resistance X-Wing.
Okay.
And I would say specifically Poe's because his is a little different. I always thought it was weird, but in the movies, we see Luke in a standard X-wing, and we see Darth Vader. Granted, it was the first TIE Advance, but like they're piloting normal ships, and they are what made it great. But in Poe's case, he actually had a different X-wing than the rest of the Resistance.
Right.
And his was really cool. It wasn't just a different color scheme, but like that black and orange paint was supposed to be some kind of I forget what it was called, but it was like a Ferris something paint that scattered radar. They equipped his ship with that weird thing in the last movie that they put on the back of it that made it go like really, really fast, the like aft engine thing. So when you closed the wings, the S-foils, it would go super fast. And I just think another one that kind of looks cool to me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a beefed up X-wing.
Right.
And then him being an ace pilot, just like in it,
It completed it.
he was a monster.
Yeah.
So I think that one is a good one for a battle. But,
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Do you have some honorable mentions that didn't get to make your list but would be cool?
Well, I had the Gauntlet, of course.
Okay, yeah. I did too.
They
I like
were
them.
they were great. The TIE Interceptor.
I love the Interceptor so much. Yeah.
Me too. And then the Defender. So can't beat both of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love a good Thrawn made anything.
One of my all-time favorite ships that missed my list was an A-wing, just general Rebellion
Fast.
A-wing. Supposedly one of the
firepower,
only
good.
things faster than a TIE Interceptor.
Yep.
It's really, really quick.
Agreed.
They're weak as can be, but I just love the way they look so much.
They
It's
look
like,
great. Yeah.
It's really cool to me.
One of my big ones, which I love it as well. I'm a big Republic guy.
Yeah.
The gunship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great. I can't believe
For air combat, it wasn't designed the
True.
best. It was a troop transport,
Right.
and it had enough firepower to be able to repel any ground force.
Yeah.
But
In space.
in space, that's why I didn't choose it. I put it
yeah.
on here, but I didn't choose it because of
It looks cool, but it'd probably lose to any of these in
Yeah.
a ship-to-ship fight.
very
yeah.
much. It's slow. Like I said, the firepower is good. I mean, but
But it's meant.
it's more for repelling
troop
ground
support.
force. Yeah. So
Yeah. But good thought though. That's a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
And it's what the Razor Crest was designed off of. Mandalorian's
Yeah.
ship was designed off of a modified one of those gunships.
Okay.
At least in its concept art. Not saying like in universe his
Right,
ship was
gotcha.
built from one, but like that's the design.
That's how they
aesthetic.
created it. Right. That's cool. I like that. It makes sense.
Y-wing. Y-wing is a.
I didn't put Y-wing on here.
Now, weirdly, I like the Rebellion's Y-wing a lot in how it looks, and the quote-unquote newer one, the Resistance one, I hate.
Yeah.
It's supposed to got more armor and all this. I think it looks really stupid
Yeah.
now. I don't know.
Well, you had the Y-wing that originated from the Clone Wars. I mean, the
Right.
clone pilots used it, and it was a very sleek design. It was whole.
Yeah.
And then in Rebels, they had the episode of where they found the Y-wings, and it was in a junkyard.
Yeah.
And so they were scrapping them. They were pulling the armor off, and
Yeah.
that's how we got the Rebellion
The
Y-wing.
Rebellion's Y-wing. Yeah.
It's because it didn't have the armor. It didn't have all this, cool plate design and stuff
Sure.
like that. And it was like, it's kind of cool, And it was a design that stuck through
Yeah.
the Rebellion, and it's like that's awesome. I really like that. I like the way the Y-wings look. I like how they have that top turret.
Yeah.
It's a full 360 rotating turret.
Yeah.
And that's a really good design. The reason I didn't put it on my list is I put the gunship, which it doesn't make sense. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They're both just slower.
Right.
You
I know. They're so slow.
If you have anything that is combat and fast,
Probably one of these other ones is going to beat it.
it's going to tear it down.
Yeah.
But
But it's purpose-built for bombing runs and all that.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal at what it
Correct.
does. Yeah. I also put a couple like weird ones on my honorable mentions, like
Mm.
the Empire's Lambda shuttles. I don't know why, because they're just like whatever. But I love the way they look so much. I always thought that like the Imperial shuttles look so cool to me.
Yeah.
That like when the Emperor comes landing and the wings like fold up and it just lands.
It's got
this little white shuttle.
The ramp drops down right
Man,
off the
I
nose.
like that so much. Yeah, it just looks like the mouth is open and they're
Yeah.
walking out of this thing. There's something about that just like really calls to me, but
Yeah.
obviously not really combat. I shouldn't put it in this, so I wrote it down, but I don't want it in a battle.
Right.
And then all the like all the Legends stuff, like the Ebon Hawk from the Knights of the Old Republic, Revan's ship, the Shadow of the Empire, Dash
Yeah,
Rendar.
Dash
His
Rendar.
ship was the Outrider, and it also kind of looked like a frigate, like a sideways looking
Yeah.
hamburger kind of thing. That was cool. Oh, and the Jedi Starfighters. We never talked about those, but those are pretty cool.
I don't know why I didn't put it on here. I do like Jedi Starfighters. I like the. It's so hard for me to choose between the first generation and the second generation.
It's not for me.
I like the first generation
Do you?
Starfighter.
Okay.
To me, they're like super slick.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are.
You know, I mean, they have the, you know,
Long, pointy nose.
yeah, you know, I don't know why.
It looks fast.
It looks,
Yeah.
it does. It looks very fast.
Right.
Second generation, I like the cockpit.
I like the second one a lot, but I think it is supposed to be like this is where the Empire was starting to go in the direction.
This is how they got their cockpit
their
for the
TIE fighters
yeah.
and stuff. And even like the little itty bitty wings that pop up on the side, they have like that little design that's like the, I guess like the solar panels that
Right.
the TIEs have.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's where this is starting.
Right.
This is its
Yeah.
origins, the tiniest little bit of it. So I always thought that was kind of cool.
Another one that I also like is the V9. Wait, I'm sorry.
The V-wing.
The V Wing is
Yeah.
the one. I'm sorry. The V19. That's another one I had on here. It's not really so much of like cool. It's this one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I do like it.
Mhm.
I mean, it's got the wing. I mean, same thing, kind of like the Imperial Shuttle when
Right.
it lands, it goes here. But the tail wing and both the side wings, they will all fold down
Gotcha.
as they take off. I think they're cool.
Yeah.
But they're not as cool. The V Wing that is in Episode 3, Bad Batch.
Right. Those are cool.
It looks good and it sounds good.
Yeah, they
You know
sound
what I
like
mean?
it might be the earliest sounding. That's the TIE Fighter sound.
Yeah.
But I don't think you hear it until then, right?
Mhm,
That's
yeah.
the first time. But yeah. What an iconic noise. We didn't even put a TIE Fighter on our list, but probably because they're so weak.
Well, the
You
only
need,
reason
like,
I
four
wouldn't
of
put a
them.
TIE fighter is one, which I'm sure some of these ships you don't have hyperspace capability.
Right.
The TIE fighters
TIE
don't.
Fighters, no shields.
X-wing does.
No,
TIE fighter
yeah.
doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
The no shields on a TIE. X-wings have a shield.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like they're very.
Yeah.
You just throw them out there and good luck. In
It's
a pack,
the
they're
entire
great.
philosophy of the Emperor,
Yeah.
the quantity over quality. I don't care if these
Yeah.
humans in these ships die. Send 500 of them
Yeah.
instead of one.
That's what I'm saying. If you throw a pack of TIEs out there,
Yeah.
they're nasty.
Yeah, you're not going to kill them all.
You put one out there, it's like good luck, buddy. Yeah, you know what I mean. So
That's funny. Yeah, that's true.
Alright.
Nice.
Well, cool. So that was a good one. Like I said, Starfighters are one of my favorites.
Same, dude.
I
I
like
could
the
go on forever.
designs. I like the way they look, and they always change them. But I think that was a good lineup for this week.
Yeah, yeah. Excited to see how this one goes.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you everybody once again for tuning in to this episode of Cantina Chat Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and give us a like and a follow on there, and keep up on that for the polls for the weekly arenas. And as always, may the laughs be with you.